Alright guys, we're gonna finish. So, here we go. When we stopped, Luke had just been caught by Jen's dad because he was in the house looking for her. And now he's got to figure out what's gonna happen since now Jen's dad knows about him now. What's he gonna say to him? Luke asked, "So where is she?" The man looked away. His voice broke. "Jen is no longer with us. She's dead," the man said harshly. Somehow Luke had known without wanting to know. He still stumbled backwards in shock. He bumped into the couch and sagged into it. "No," he said, "not Jen. No, you're lying." His ears roared. He thought crazy things. "This is a dream, a nightmare. I will make myself wake up." He remembered Jen talking a mile a minute, gesturing wildly. How could she be dead? He tried to picture her lying still, not moving, dead. It was impossible. The man was shaking his head helplessly. "I'd give anything to have her back," he whispered. "But it's true, I saw. They gave us the body. Special privilege for a government official." His voice was so bitter Luke could barely listen. "And we couldn't even bury her in the family plot. Couldn't take a bereavement day off work. Couldn't tell anyone why we're going around with red eyes and aching hearts. No, we just had to pretend to be the same old family of four we'd always been." "How," Luke asked, "how did she die?" He was thinking if the car had wrecked, it wouldn't be so bad. Or maybe it had nothing to do with the rally. Maybe she just got really sick. "They shot her," Jen's father said. "They shot all of them, all 40 kids at the rally, gunned down right in front of the president's house. The blood flowed into his rose bushes, but they had the sidewalks scrubbed before the tourists came, so nobody would know." Luke started shaking his head no and couldn't stop. "But Jen said there'd be too many people to shoot. She said there'd be 1,000. Luke protested as if Jen's words could change what he was hearing. "Our Jen had too much faith in the bravery of her fellow hidden," Jen's father said. Luke flinched. "I told her I couldn't go," he said. "I told her. It's not my fault." "No," Jen's dad said quietly. "And you couldn't have stopped her. It's not your fault. There are plenty of other people who deserve the blame. They probably would have shot 1,000 or 15,000. They don't care." His face twisted. Luke thought he had never seen such pain, not even the time Matthew dropped a sledgehammer on his foot. Tears began to spill down Jen's father's face. "What I don't understand is, why did she do this? This children's crusade? She wasn't stupid. We'd been warning her about the population police all her life. Did she really think the rally would work?" he said. "Yes," Luke assured him. Then, unbidden, the last words she'd spoken to him came back to him. "We can hope," after she'd told him hope was worthless. Maybe she knew the rally would fail. Maybe she even knew she would probably die. He remembered the first day he'd met her, when she'd cut her hand to cover the drops of his blood on the carpet. There was something strange in Jen he couldn't quite understand that made her willing to sacrifice herself to help others, or to try to. "I think at first she thought the rally would work," Luke told Jen's dad. "But then, even when she wasn't sure, she still had to go. She wouldn't call it off." "Why?" Jen's dad asked. He was sobbing. "Did she want to die?" "No," Luke said. "She wanted to live, not die, not hide. Live." The words played over and over again in his brain. Not hide, live. not hide, live. As long as he held on to them, he felt like Jen was there. She just left the room for a minute to get more potato chips maybe, and soon she'd be back to lecture him again about how they both deserved a better life than hiding. He could believe it was her voice echoing in his ears. But if he let go, let the words stop for a minute, he was lost. He felt like the whole world was spinning away from him and he was all alone. He wanted to cry out, "Jen, come back!" as if she could hear him and stop the spinning and come to him. As if from a great distance, Luke heard Jen's father heave a sigh and blow his nose in a businesslike way. "You may not be ready to hear this," he said, but... Dizzily, Luke raised his head and listened half-heartedly. "When you logged into that chat room," Jen's father said, "a buzzer went off in a room in Population Police headquarters. They're monitoring the chat room very closely. They found it after the rally. I've managed to cover up things about Jen, but they'll trace your message back to our computer. The Population Police are backlogged right now following leads from the rally, so I should have a day or two to come up with a plausible sounding explanation. But if they investigate too carefully, you may be in danger." "More than usual," Luke said sarcastically. Jen's dad took the question seriously. "Yes, they will begin actively looking for you. They'll search every house around this one. It wouldn't take them long to find you." A chill ran down Luke's spine. So he would die, just like Jen. Or not like her. She had gone bravely. He would be caught like a mouse in its hole. "But if you'll let me," Jen's dad continued, "I can get you a fake ID. You can be miles away before they come looking." "You would do that for me?" Luke asked. "Why?" "Because of Jen." "But how?" "I have connections. You see," Jen's dad hesitated, "I work for the Population Police." Chapter 28. Luke began screaming and couldn't stop. Suddenly, his brain didn't seem to have any control whatsoever over what his body did. He felt his legs spring up and propel him towards Jen's dad. He saw his own hand grab for the gun and wrestle it away. He heard a voice he barely recognized as his own scream again and again. "No! No! No!" "Stop!" Jen's dad yelled. "Stop, you little fool, before you get us both killed!" Somehow the gun was in Luke's hand. Jen's dad lunged at him, and Luke could picture Jen's dad tackling him just as Jen had tackled him all those months ago. But this time, Luke stepped to the side at the last moment, and Jen's dad crashed uselessly into the far wall. Luke pointed the gun at him and struggled to hold it steady. Jen's dad turned around slowly. "You can shoot me," he said, holding his hands helplessly up in the air. "I might even welcome the chance to stop missing Jen, but it would be a mistake. I swear to you in the name of everything that's sacred, in Jen's name, I'm on your side." Jen's dad stared into Luke's eyes, waiting. Luke felt a surge of pride that he'd gotten the upper hand, that he had earned the right to decide what happened next. But how could he know what was right? Surely Jen's own father wouldn't lie in her name, would he? Luke squeezed his eyes shut, then he lowered the gun to his side. "Good," Jen's dad said, audibly releasing his breath. Luke let Jen's dad walk toward him, gently take the gun, and lay it on the desk. "I was going to explain," Jen's dad said, panting a little. He sat down. "I only work at Population Police headquarters. I don't agree with what they do. I try to sabotage them as much as I can. Jen never understood either. Sometimes you have to work from inside enemy lines." Jen's dad talked and talked and talked. Luke thought he was repeating everything he said 2 or 3 times, but that was okay because Luke's brain was functioning so slowly he needed the extra help. "Do you know much history?" Jen's dad asked. Luke tried to remember if there were any history books among his family's collection in the attic. Did adventure stories of long ago count? "Just," he cleared his throat, "just from the books Jen loaned me." "Which ones?" Luke pointed to the ones on the shelves above the computer. "And she gave me some articles, printouts from the computer." Jen's dad nodded. "So you got the propaganda from both sides," he said. "No truth." "What do you mean?" Luke asked. "The government publications are trying to convince people of one thing, so they stretch the facts. And the underground is just as extreme in its own way, making statistics match their cause. So you know nothing." "Jen said the stuff from the computer was true," Luke said defensively. Just saying her name made him wince. And now she was dead. How could she be dead? Jen's dad waved away that impatiently. "She believed what she wanted to, but I'm afraid..." He stopped, and Luke was afraid Jen's dad might start crying again. Then he swallowed hard and went on. "I'm afraid I encouraged her. I passed along some slanted information. I wanted to give her hope that someday the population law would be repealed. That means taken away. I didn't know she'd... Luke knew he wouldn't be able to bear seeing Jen's dad break down again. "So what should I know?" Luke asked. "What is the truth?" "The truth," Jen's dad muttered, catching on to those 2 words as though Luke had thrown him a lifeline. He recovered himself quickly. "Nobody really knows. There have been too many lies for too long. Our government is totalitarian, and totalitarian governments never like truth." That made no sense to Luke, but he let Jen's dad go on talking. "You know about the famines?" Luke nodded. "Before that, our country believed in freedom and democracy and equality for all. Then the famines came, and the government was overthrown. There were riots in every city over food, and many, many people were killed. When General Sherwood came to power, he promised law and order and food for all. By then, that was all the people wanted, and all they got." Luke squinted, trying to understand. This was grown-up talk, pure and simple. No, it was worse than the grown-up talk he was used to, because all his parents ever talked about was the corn harvest and bills and the likelihood of frost at the end of May. Those, Luke understood. Governments being overthrown, cities rioting, they were beyond his comprehension. "Barron's got more," he blurted, then blushed because it seemed so rude. Jen's dad laughed. "True, you noticed. I know it's not fair, and I'm not proud of it. But government officials made a conscious decision to allow one class of people to have special privileges. Jen probably introduced you to junk food, didn't she?" Luke nodded. "That's a good example. Officially, it's illegal, but no one ever got arrested for supplying barons with junk food, which is mighty convenient, considering that all the powerful government officials are barons." The cynicism in his voice sounded so much like Jen that Luke almost gave in to grief again, but he forced himself to focus on what Jen's dad was saying. "The government justifies keeping everyone else in poverty because people seem to work the hardest when they're right on the edge of survival," he continued. "The government does try to make sure that most people, the ones who cooperate, do survive. If you've heard your parents talking about other farmers, you'll know that nobody loses their farms anymore. But also, nobody ever makes enough to live comfortably." Luke thought about his parents' constant worries about money. Was it all unnecessary? Were they just being manipulated? He felt a spark of anger, but buried that too because he had other questions. "But even barons have to follow the population law," he said. "Is that because," he gulped, "because it's necessary? Were there too many people? Are there?" "Probably not," Jen's dad said. "If food had been distributed fairly, if people hadn't panicked, if we'd had good leaders being honest about the need for everyone's cooperation, we could have survived the crisis without curtailing anyone's rights. And now, it shouldn't be a problem if some people choose to have 3 or 4 kids, as long as some other people choose to have none. But the population law became General Sherwood's proudest accomplishment. That's why even barons aren't exempt. He points to that and says, "See how much control I have over my people's lives?" "So, it is wrong," Luke said, trying to grasp the point. "I believe so, yes," Jen's dad said. Luke felt a strange sense of relief that it wasn't truly wrong for him to exist, just illegal. For the first time since he'd read the government books, he could see the two things being separate. Maybe that was why he'd been too scared to go to the rally. If he'd truly believed the way Jen had, then he might have gone. And would he have been killed as she was? It was all too confusing and scary to think about. Jen's father looked at his watch. "I need to get back to work. I can only hide so much. If you want it, I can have the fake ID for you by tomorrow night. In the meantime, I'd advise you to..." He broke off. Luke knew why. A sound from his worst nightmares. Pounding on the door. And then the command, "Open up! Population police!" Chapter 29. Oh, guys, we might not finish it. We're gonna try. Before Luke had a chance to move, Jen's dad had picked him up and thrust him into the closet. "There's a secret door at the back," he hissed. "Use it." Luke groped blindly, fighting through what felt like piles of hair. Behind him, he could hear Jen's dad yelling, "I'm coming! I'm coming! That's a $12,000 door! If you break it down, you're gonna pay!" Then Luke heard the computer making its beep, 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 and Jen's dad muttering, "Fine time for them to discover efficiency. Come on, connect." The pounding at the door grew louder, and a gruff voice yelled out, "You have 3 seconds, George!" Luke dug deeper into the closet. He couldn't even find the back wall, let alone any secret door. And then he heard a splintering sound from the front of the house. Seconds later, there were stomping footsteps in the computer room. "What is the meaning of this?" It was Jen's dad's voice coming from the hall, full of outrage. If he hadn't witnessed it himself, Luke never would have guessed that Jen's dad had been crying only moments before. He sounded too forceful, too assured, too confident that he was right, and anyone who opposed him was wrong. The stomping stopped. From deep inside the closet, Luke heard someone snicker. "Got you with your pants down, eh, George?" Yes, very funny." Jen's father replied, not sounding the least bit amused. There was a sound that could have been a zipper being zipped. "Has it come to this? A man can't even go to the bathroom without his door being broken down by a bunch of morons with power complexes, and you will pay for that door, I assure you." If Luke had been one of the population police, Jen's dad would have scared him to pieces. Luke would have backed out, muttering, I'm sorry. He never would have believed that Jen's dad was hiding a 3rd child. Hopefully, Luke paused in his burrowing into the Talbot's closet. But the voice that answered Jen's father carried only the slightest edge of doubt. "Come off it, George. You know we're entitled to search and seizure. We have reports of that computer being used for illegal purposes. Just half an hour ago." "You're even bigger fools than I thought," Jen's dad answered. "Don't any of you read your memos? I reported to Central Command this morning that I was going to continue my sting operation in the illegal chat rooms. See, I wrote, 'Where's Jen?' and 'Hello, is anybody there?' Which is what some lost, confused 3rd child who missed the rally might write. Are you so low-ranking that you don't know I was pretending to be the guerrilla leader, Jen, all along? Did you miss the commendation ceremony where I was rewarded for the disposal of 40 illegals?" Luke wondered that Jen's dad could say her name without his voice giving him away. If Luke didn't know Jen, hadn't known her, he corrected himself with a wince. And if he hadn't known how much she'd trusted her father, he would have been certain that Jen's father had double-crossed her. As it was, his head swam with the fear that Jen's father still might betray him. How could he trust anyone who spoke so coldly of the disposal of 3rd children? Luke struggled on through the closet, reaching a stack of blankets at the back. Finally, he touched the wall, but everything he felt was smooth. Jen's father said there was a door. There had to be a door. The voices from outside the closet were muffled now. See the memo. I'm sure it's on your desk back at the office with all the paperwork you never read. Jen's dad raised his voice so Luke could hear him clearly. Or can you even read? The population police officer ignored the insult. Show us on the computer. Very well. Luke prayed that Jen's dad had something to show them. He could not find the door, though he ran his fingers along the wall again and again. His heart was beating so loudly he was sure the population police could hear him. Gonna have to read the rest of it another time.